All right, so this is more of a morning exercise, and it's just because everybody has finally received their box that has all the pencils in it. So you should have 6 pencils in it. At the top of your little slip of paper, you should label it the way you see it here: HB, B, 2B, 4B, 6B, and 8B. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the HB, and right below where it says HB, you're going to be shading. So you're taking kind of a diagonal hatch and using one amount of pressure. You're doing the HB and then switching to the B, to the 2B, to the 4B, 6B, and 8B. And the goal is that you use the same amount of pressure. This is just to show you and familiarize yourself with the different pencil types. And even though you're using the same amount of pressure, you may get a different response. So technically the HB is a harder pencil. Now they do have other H's. So if you buy a different pencil brand, they go all the way up to like 8H, which means that it's really hard, and harder usually means lighter. And then when you get to the B's, that means more like soft. So a 2B is equivalent pretty much to a yellow pencil. 4B is softer than a yellow pencil, more like a mechanical. The 6B becomes very soft, and then the 8B is the softest one. So given all these pencils, you really don't need to use the charcoal except for maybe in those really dark, rich blacks if you're trying to capture those. And even so, be careful with getting too much charcoal dust everywhere. It's not good for you to breathe, and it's not good to get all over yourself or your paper. Going back to the strawberry, here's where I have it where it's kind of masked in. So you have volume to the strawberry, and you have some value shifts, and there's the cast shadow on there as well. The only thing that it's missing really is seeds and light, so getting in some highlights. It's really important that you work your strawberry up to this level before you start to go in and add your seeds to it. Here's after I've put in a few more darks to the leaves. You really have to look closely to see those shifts, and you do want to think about things like texture on the leaves. Now I'm going to go in and start to find the pattern that's happening with the seeds, and it is important that you follow that pattern and try and note it down as best you can. So those seeds are kind of, there's a pattern to them, right? They kind of wrap around the form and they create these diagonal lines that curve. They get denser towards the side of the strawberry and more wide apart in the middle, and then they get dense again towards the other side of the strawberry. So you just have to pay attention. The seeds themselves are kind of like vertical, they're kind of long and skinny. I'm marking down the seeds lighter than I think I need to, so I'm actually just putting down a mark. I'm not trying to render them fully 3D at this point, but I will. So I'm taking the 2B pencil and lightly putting them on top. And if I can't see the 2B pencil on top of the form shadow there, then I switch to the charcoal pencil, or you could switch to like a 6B or an 8B even. So all I'm doing is noting where the seeds are going to go, and then I'm going to go in and kind of detail those seeds out. I'm zooming in here so you can see what I'm doing to the majority of the seeds. Now there are different patterns, but here's that kind of like long skinny seed, and it's darker on one side, lighter on the other. And I am using the blending stump just to soften the edge a little bit. And you have to look to see if there's like a highlight on that seed, and there may or may not be. This particular seed does have a highlight, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop that in with the white charcoal. And you can dot it down or kind of rotate the point on there to get it to look kind of like a sparkle. Alright, so here's all the seeds put in. Now I'm just going to go in and either use the eraser to erase out light areas, or I'm going to take the white charcoal pencil and make those highlights start to happen. There's even a little bit of white on the tip of that leaf there, but you do have to always erase out before you put the white in. So notice that not all of the seed sizes are the same. Like there's some that are bigger and then they get kind of tinier as they move towards the edge, and that's kind of due to perspective and the fact that the seeds are turning away from the viewer, so they're falling back in space. And now I'm going in for those highlights. I'm looking at the shape of the highlight and I'm asking myself, how intense is it? How bright do I need to go? Is it that bright everywhere on that highlight, or is it brighter in certain areas? And then I look for the shape of the highlights. There's all these little curvy ones and like crescent shapes. Here's a close-up of how I erase out, because there's highlights in the shadow, but you don't want to really use light or white in your form shadow. It's better to erase out, and you can see I'm using the corner of my eraser to do that. And I'm making sure that the corner is a clean corner of that eraser. If your eraser gets dirty, you need to kind of rub it off. So you rub it off on a scrap piece of paper, or maybe on the gray paper too if you have an open area that you're not drawing in. So lastly, you may want to put in a little bit of white in the background. You don't have to necessarily put it everywhere. I tried that and it was okay, but I think it would have looked better if I left some of the gray of the paper exposed. So that's really your choice there. But I would put some in the foreground, because if you kind of squint your eyes, it's really bright in the foreground area right in front of that like cast shadow on the ground. So I would put some there. Make sure that you use even shading, maybe even a hatch to do that. Okay, so here is the finished drawing. You need to make sure that you have texture, that you have the seeds, the leaves, you have the separation of some of the leaves, and that more importantly, you have form. So it should look like it's three-dimensional, like you could just pluck it off the page. And that's true of all the forms. Hey, by the way, I am taking suggestions for our final two forms, which is the cylinder and the cube. So if you wanted to suggest something, if you wanted to come up with something that would be fun, go ahead and make sure you talk to me as I walk past.